Thank you, Mr. McClintock. We'll now go to Mr. McEachin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, it's good to see you. And you made a comment about sexual harassment that I want to go into a little bit. As you know, Mr. Secretary, deeply troubling cases of sexual harassment at the Park Service have come to light in recent years. The Inspector General revealed in detail behaviors that would be reprehensible in any setting, let alone a taxpayer-funded agency tasked with celebrating the very best of American culture, history, and values. I am surprised personally that we've not had a hearing on it in this committee, so I'm asking the chairman for one today, and I've sent a letter to the chairman as well as the chairman of Oversight. I have the privilege of being the ranking member on Oversight. You have declared a zero-tolerance policy and promised an update of policies, new training requirements, and new reporting procedures. But I want to suggest to you that is not enough. The previous administration left you a transition briefing book which revealed that the high-profile sexual harassment cases at the Park Service have spurred about 120 new sexual harassment and related reprisal allegations at the department that need to be resolved. The brief went on to say, quote, because the employment and labor law unit's existing resources were inadequate to manage and litigate these cases, as well as to undertake efforts necessary to ensure such cases do not recur in the future, the Division of General Law requested client funding to hire 6 new experienced employment and labor law attorneys. As you know, these attorneys don't just litigate cases, they also provide guidance to supervisors who have to investigate the allegations themselves. My question is this. When I checked last week to see whether the attorneys were hired, only some have been. It seems that there may be a hiring freeze that prevents the rest of them moving forward. Is that still the case?
The sexual harassment, let me begin. I have a zero tolerance. As a former commander, I've seen it. But some of it is structural. Let me give you an example to clarify it. I had credible IG reports, too, when I assumed office, of a sexual harassment case as well as abuse of power when our senior law enforcement officials. So what were my options? I brought my solicitors together, fire him. Couldn't fire him. Wasn't available to me because he's got to go through this 2 committees. They find it. Then it goes to an appeals process.
Yes, sir. Mr.
So
Secretary,
structurally, I think I need some help from Congress.
I can appreciate that, and hopefully as we have our, if we are able to have a hearing on this, you'll be able to elaborate on that. But my question is this. Have you been able to hire the attorneys necessary that the last administration recommended to you to be hired? Have you been able to hire them? If so, that would be a yes, and if not, please explain to me why not.
I have 5 solicitors that are pending confirmation and appointment. To date, 0. I don't have a deputy. So I have 5 solicitors that are appointments. To date, 0. I don't have a director of Fish and Wildlife. I don't have a director of Parks. I don't have a director of anything.
Are these the solicitors that you're talking about, the ones you just listed
Well,
out?
solicitors on our side, you know, as leadership, and I would think that if you're going into a campaign and your chief of staff, as you hire your chief of staff should have some say on who you hire. And that's the predicament I find myself in.
So are you suggesting that you haven't been able to hire these attorneys because you don't have these solicitors in place? Is that what you're telling us?
What I'm saying is that I don't have any of my 5 solicitors in. And what I'm also saying is this, is that as far as
my question isn't about the solicitors. I thought this was going to be relatively simple, but I see that I'm not as experienced as running out the clock as you are. My question is have you hired
I would find that an inaccurate statement, but go ahead, sir.
I'm sure you would, but I'm trying to get an answer to a question. Have you been able to hire the attorneys or not? And we can go into the why, but I just want to know, do you have them?
I have put a hiring freeze on Washington, D.C. and Denver for a reason, because I think that the hiring is better at the field. So if that solicitor, and I'll check in what grade it is, if the solicitor is GS 12 and above, which I assume it is, and that solicitor is found in Washington, D.C. or Denver, then it falls into that, although there's an exception clause. So if the deputy, which I don't have, the acting deputy feels that it is necessary, then he can do an exception on that. But the idea was to put our hiring where it belongs, is in the field and not in the headquarters. But I will give you a detailed line by line on that position.
I appreciate it, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. Gentleman's
I yield
time has
back.
expired, and